Talking about the performance of the Naira against the dollar in on the program. We have economist and financial expert Steve Nwachukwu, who joins us via Zoom to discuss further on this. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak, Steve.
My pleasure. Good morning.
So, well, I would say pick it up from where we stopped the last time when we had this conversation. It appears that there is no end in sight for the skyrocketing exchange rate as we have it at the moment. We have this projection that by December it will be up to 850 Naira from at the central bank side. So what are your own expectations? This 850 Naira, how realistic is it? We've heard from Mukhtar in that report where he actually agrees that we are likely to get there.
Well, you can predict, you can speculate, you can also, judge what possibly the rate will be in a couple of weeks and months to come, subject to the variables, the data you have relating to the flow or inflow of forests. That's only what will guarantee your prediction. But with the recent moves that we have watched the CBN and the federal government try to raise some forests in about 10 billion, 7 billion from the LNG dividend, and that of 3 billion from NNPC, a sort of relief for the exchange market. That's why you saw the recent rally you saw in the market in the last couple of days. So, like we keep emphasizing or saying, the major driver is the availability and supply of forest to the market. Once there is a supply, the price will crash, just like we witnessed on Thursday and Friday down the weekend. We saw a very strong Naira that resisted fall because there was an influx of money. CBN started the process of trying to clear some backlogs of forests, like you have the starched aviation, what do you call it, the airline starch funds close to $600 million, and a couple of them that they are owing commercial banks. So once you see such kind of move by CBN or by federal government to attract forests, it will definitely reflect in the market. So the prediction of 800, 850 and whatever is subject to this data and variables around the inflows of forests. If there will be sufficient inflows of dollar, I'm sure it will even go as low as 400. But unfortunately, it may not go to that because federal government in its 2024 appropriation proposal is estimating a benchmark of 700. So CBN or the government cannot go below its official benchmark. So that's why no prediction we see it below 700, because already the federal government is thinking that their budgeting benchmark for Naira is within 700. So like I said, you can predict anything subject to the flow of dollar in the Nigerian forest market. Those moves by CBN is welcome, but to me, they are cosmetics. They are not structural. They are not fundamental. They will not address the issue. We may just have the relief that we had last week, seeing Naira regaining both in the parallel market and official exchange window. But until you make a sustainable moves, and those steps has to be taken, and it has to do with the supply curve, deal with issues around supply. So supply of forest to the market will determine the exchange rate of Naira, or the strength of Naira in the exchange market. So CBN and the federal government has to do with issue of supply. Then there are two components of supply. First is the first step they've taken, which is making artificial. I use the word artificial carefully because you just borrowed money, you just sourced for this 10 billion. It's not coming from your revenues, it's not coming from inflows from your earnings. They are forwards.
All right, Steve,
Meaning that you
talking
will have
about
challenges in
this
days to
prediction
come.
that at this point, we're not sure if it's going up or down, and we don't know how the outcome would be, say, by the end of December. What are the key drivers of Naira, volatility going up and down, and how can this affect the Nigerian economy?
Well, it's already affecting Nigerian economy as we speak, because if you go to the market, those commodities, those items that you buy on daily basis, Nigerians consume, you can see the reflection or the ripple effect of the forex market to it. The prices are going up on daily basis. The price of gas, cooking gas, I listened to a report, is going up as a result of the same issue that surrounds around the components of forex availability for those importers that will bring this item. Unfortunately, like I keep saying, we are a consuming nation. We have little we are producing to support the economy or to support Naira defense by CBN. So unless we make two adjustments, one structure, they are all structural adjustments, one on supply end, then the other on demand curve, demand aspect of it. When I talked about the supply, I'm talking about two segments of supply. The artificial one that CBN recently did, or the federal government that's making forex available. It's not like they have solved the issue. By the time this 10 billion is exhausted, importers will move to official window, demand for dollar, we will consume it in the next 8 months or 9 months maximum. This 10 billion will be exhausted. That's why I say it's cosmetics, it's not structural. By the time we exhaust this 10 billion, we will go back to square one again. That's why I said it's not the real thing the federal government ought to be doing. We are talking about supply. Supply is in respect to the production of wrapping up production of crude oil. Unfortunately, crude oil is immense source of our forests. Unless we give a matching order to the international oil companies or those handling who have licenses for the OMLs, those involved, cut off this oil theft. Unless federal government gives such matching orders to ramp up production from somewhere around 1.3 to 1.8 to 1.9 million barrels per day, that is only where you can see a sustainable forex exchange market. That is where you can see Naira regaining strongly against the forces of demand. That is the truth.
So
that
in
is
the
the
context,
structural things that needs
Steve,
to be done
in the
until
context
you
of the
supply
global,
through the very
events happening
production process.
in the world, how are people in the forex market, taking this situation, and how will this affect the foreign investors coming into the country?
Pardon, I didn't get your question.
All right, I said in the context of the global economic events, happening around the world, how do you think the foreign market people are accepting the rebound of the Naira, and how will this affect the Nigeria or the nation's relationship with the foreign investors?
Of course, when you have an inconsistency in government policy decisions or policies around the exchange, it doesn't give a good confidence to investors. For sure, investors are being skeptical of bringing their money in form of foreign direct investment or foreign portfolio investment. So the perception is low. That is the truth. The perception is low. But anything that government does around building confidence around Naira will help. By the time you pay the backlogs, you build back the confidence, because we are talking about the starch or the trapped $600 million by foreign airlines. The confidence of such investors running such services to Nigerians is low. In fact, some of them have not be routing through Nigeria anymore, because the money they earned legitimately, you are not giving them the money. So the confidence can only be built as CBN is making efforts to pay these backlogs. By the time CBN clears these backlogs, the confidence will regain, because they will not take you as a nation or a country that is doing that they can do business with. Not when they have move their money to your shores or to your economy, and they cannot be able to repatriate such funds in form of dividend or in form of capital. So in international business, you must guarantee that very process, the end, the entry and the end aspect of it, which is repatriating such funds. So when they put or fix the money in our commercial bank in form of foreign portfolio investment, or put it in the capital market, buying shares, buying equities, when dividends are paid, when interests are accrued, you should also give them a window, a very sustainable window for them to also exit your market. That is the confidence building. For sure, in the past weeks or past months, this confidence has been low. Foreign investors have been skeptical of these very issues around the availability and scarcity of forex in our exchange market. With this, the confidence, I'm sure, is regaining.
All right, Steve, very recently there has been calls by members of the public reacting to the plan by the National Assembly to purchase SUVs for members of the National Assembly. And, you know, people are saying, why don't they patronize locally manufactured vehicles instead of, you know, taking all that money out? So there's, you know, capital flight that is likely to happen as a result of this. So I'm just using this, but what are the loopholes that you see as regards foreign exchange management, and what is, you know, why are we not being able to increase foreign reserve in terms of, you know, the dollar?
Okay, there are two perspectives to look at this issue. Like I said earlier, and they are all boils down to supply and demand curve. How do federal government, through fiscal policies, manage these very issues? We are talking about inflows of forex, unavailability of forex, low performance of Naira. Why? Because there is an excessive demand, a very building pressure on Naira on daily basis. Now, the nature and pattern and composition of the federal government projects or budget itself also constitutes a threat to Naira. I hope you heard me.
Yes, very well.
The composition of federal government projects, the nature of the project itself constitutes a threat to defense of Naira itself. Just like you mentioned, those budgeting cars, SUVs, 100% of the resources needed to buy such equipment or buy such machines or buy such cars are forex, and it creates a lot of pressure on the same scarce forex. So it's a question of fiscal policy of government, posture of government in the way they are budgeting. We have local content laws, we have local content acts, we have a lot around it that can sustain local manufacturers. How far is federal government implementing that very act or law? So when government has 70 to 80% of the components of the budget line items are foreign-made products. It's the same pressure federal government indirectly is also inflicting pains of Naira. Exactly. When you budget SUV, you budget yacht, you go for foreign-made items, and you're not looking at the local content aspect of it. It's the same pressure. Government is even inflicting injury on Naira, on itself. So clearly, 100% of foreign.
So clearly, we are not unaware of where the problem is, Steve. Obviously, from what we are talking about now, it's clear to everyone where the problem is. Why aren't we, you know, looking for the solutions and making sure that we implement some of those policies that will help in bringing, you know, an end to this crisis?
Unfortunately, that's why we are talking about leadership style, the posture of our leaders. Who are these people we have recruited? Do they really understand how these things work? That is the big challenge. We are talking every day scarcity of dollar, scarcity of dollar, scarcity of dollar, and 90 to 80% components of their budget line items are all dollar driven. Can't you look at other ways to budget that you make sure that the pressure on Naira will reduce? So unfortunately, the same people trying to manage the free fall of Naira is also inflicting the same pain on Naira.
So what are these other ways? Is it that, what are these other ways that we should be looking at? You know, aside from the patronizing of the local content, what are the challenges to that? Is it that the options aren't really there in terms of local content, or what exactly is the problem?
Oh, yeah, beyond the local content, you are asking what are the other ways. Now it takes innovation. It takes leaders that are smart. It takes the leaders that are empathetic to the sufferings of Nigeria. It takes leaders who understands the way and how to, maneuver these very things. Yes, it's quite constraining to say you cannot budget because 80% or 70% of the infrastructures that we need, there are still components of it that require some level of importation of such line items like the raw materials. If you are talking about building airports, 60 to 70% of equipment needed is you must import them. So, and you need forests to import them. So, like I said, it takes innovation. It takes a determined leader to start, prioritizing those budget line items. For instance, we are talking about SUVs. For them, these appointees, from the ministers to the presidency, to the wife of the president, to the legislators, can they shave it for now? Can they shave that very budgeting for cars? And look at the critical ways, or look at the critical ones that they cannot avoid, that can impact in the lives of Nigerians. That is being innovative, that is being empathetic to the current forest situation we are having. You don't care. We are all crying, and you are still budgeting for cars. You are still budgeting for those line items that will demand 100% forest. And we should also be innovative in this way, because we are looking at ways out.
Okay,
how can you have some bilaterals?
All right, there's also another point that have been raised by analysts like you, talking about setting up plants locally that will do some of these things, getting some of the investors from outside of the country to come into the country and set up their plants, their manufacturing and production companies right here in Nigeria, so that we don't have to go out there to do some of these things. That way we are creating jobs. That way we are we are able to, conserve our dollars. But then the issue of ease of doing business and the friendliness of the business environment also is key, has been raised. What are we doing in that regard? Are you satisfied, or are you confident that we're on the right track when it comes to creating the enabling environment for investors to come in really and do these businesses?
Well, we may be doing some things, and what we may be doing may not be good enough, may not be solid, or may not be fundamental enough. And how can we be doing things, and how will a serious investor believe that we are doing things when we are also budgeting 100% of these cars to be imported? So it doesn't show that we are doing things. It should have like 20-30% components of locally made cars. That's to show that we are doing something. Then on the how sustainability, or how practical can we substitute these very budget line items, or how can we get out of these very situations? One, I know, is not a short-term measure. It's a medium and long-term measures. Like we are talking about bilaterals. How can we build those confidence around these foreign investors that we can extract some level of bilaterals so that they can have most of this equipment, most of these factories, most of this machine being installed in Nigeria so that we can, like you said, create the jobs for our people too, while we are having their partnership in producing such items. So this is what the government is expected to drive, and it can only be the government because you can only engage these investors on bilateral levels. The ones that private institutions or private and corporate organizations are engaging, you help them. If there are incentives that those foreign investors needed so that these very agreements or this very process or dialogue can be achieved, government should step in and help private businesses to acquire such technologies or acquire such machineries. So government needs to drive the course. Government needs to be on the lead because we are talking about developing our local industries. And it can only be government. It cannot be left in the hands of the private sector alone. We had Dunlop left these shores of Nigeria. What can government go? Start talking with the companies. What do you need? You need electricity. Well, I can make sure I will provide supply electricity, a 24 or 20-hour supply to you. This is decisions of government. So government has to be the posture of the leadership. But what we have seen in the recent days suggests otherwise. These guys are not serious. Like I said, what stops the National Assembly members to shave these very cards for now? Now you know that Naira is falling, and you know that 100% of the proceeds or the dollar required to purchase those things are not available. You are going to import them. Why can't you shave those cards for now? Thank you.
All right, Steve, talking about business, I mean, we've seen how it has affected, the current exchange rate has affected our businesses, where even someone that sells something petty could actually tell you it's the dollar, they blame the dollar. So as a financial expert now, what advice would you give individuals and business owners in how to navigate through the forex market condition, and also find it, how to minimize the risks in their businesses with the whole volatility going on the Naira going up and down? Because we already know that the government needs to do major things, but at this moment business owners and individuals are suffering the most. So how do you advise them on how to pay attention to the volatility and make sure they find a way to minimize the risks of their business?
Well, first and foremost, government has to deal with this very issue of speculators, because the volatility is as a result of active players, active speculators, those who on daily basis are permutating, trying to push, trying to make profit from just a round tripping of our currency. So government has to be decisive on this regards, deal with these individuals. You can get them trapped. That man that is demanding for $1 billion, what do you need that $1 billion? What are you importing? Can't you wait? Can't you be rationalized? Like I said, government has to be in charge. Unless government becomes in charge and be able to direct these flows of dollar. I like the idea of bringing these 43 items into the baskets so that we can have an overview of those who are demanding for this dollar. Because these 43 items are actually going to the forest, going to parallel market to demand for this dollar, and that's why you are seeing a constant rise in our parallel market. So if you come into the window, we'll be able to know how much you are looking for. So on the aspect of Nigerians or businesses who are on daily basis demanding, needing dollar for raw material or the other, there is nothing, because it's subject to the availability of dollar.
Looks like we've lost
all
Steve,
they needed to do
Okay, Steve is still
okay
there.
I'm with you.
Okay, so Steve, what I can't even understand is how a tomato seller will be saying that dollar has impacted on the price of their produce in the market. It just doesn't make sense to me. Do you think that Nigerians are exploiting this whole situation sometimes, increasing unnecessarily the prices of goods in the market.
Of course, there are components of that. Exploitation is there, but the reality is that at every time you have a free fall of the Naira or the rise or the fall of Naira in the exchange market, its ripple effect is there. Now, for instance, the woman selling tomato, yes, you may possibly say it doesn't have a direct connection to dollar, but he will still buy other items that is dollarized, that has dollar components of importing them. When he sells his tomato finish, he will probably go to buy semo or to buy other line items that people use dollar to import. The price he bought it last week at 10 naira, he may get there and they are selling at 15 naira. So invariably, he or he is forced to increase the price of his own product, which is the tomato. So that's why it has a relationship, a ripple effect on other items. He buys, he produces his own items, he enters transportation. When the price of dollar goes up, it has a ripple effect on the petroleum products. It also affects sheep because the amount of money used to convert or to haul those items will increase. So definitely it has a ripple effect. Yes, you cannot take away the components of exploitation Nigerians are becoming these days, hiking their prices irrespective of some level of relative stability we witness in our exchange market. So the government has to be in charge, and institutions of government that needs to check this exploitation needs to be activated. We recently saw a voluntary price drop in the cement. Why? Why? Because I think they think that government is actually coming out to do something around that. These are kind of things we need to start doing. A lot of institutions truly is exploiting this, exploiting Nigeria. They are making a kill from the situation. So
Steve,
government needs to step up and
Steve,
start some level of price
speaking
modulation
of
or some level
institutions
of
working with the government,
sanity.
I just hope you're getting this. Steve, speaking with institutions working with the government in order to, help this volatility of the Naira, how involved do you think the government is willing to rope in other institutions or financial institutions in order to assist the country? Because at this point, Nigerians are at the peak of we are tired.
Unfortunately, we have not seen some steps by government to show the willingness to, coerce these agencies or private sectors to actually assist. But does government have a choice? Government doesn't have any choice, because if Naira fails, we all will fail. The government will also take the blame. So they don't have any choice than to start doing one or two things to coerce these structural institutions that could assist. Institutions like NNPC, like I said, give a matching order to NNPC to ramp up production to somewhere around 1.8 million. Matching orders to international oil companies that have licenses to produce or to mine goods or crude. These are the steps that federal government needs to start taking, both on private end and on the institutional government agencies. So on the side of the supply, government has to also give a matching order to CBN to crack down on these speculators.
Okay, Steve, you talked
like
about
I said
the NNPC.
Earlier, that man that is going to the parallel market demanding for $1 billion, what do you need for $1 billion for?
Okay,
Can
Steve,
we get to understand why you need it so urgent that you are forcing the price? Because it's a question of demand and supply.
Yes.
When demand outpaces supply, the price goes up or Naira falls.
Steve, it appears that the government have made some efforts with regards to ramping up the crude oil production in the country. At least you could say by the contracting of private security outfits to protect the oil and gas sector in the down south, the south-south region, the Niger Delta, We know about the contract by Tompolo, where we saw some stunts a few months ago about some of the arrests that have been made and so on. How do you assess the performance of that arrangement at the moment with regards to our production as we have it now?
It's a good one. It's a good development, but we need more than that. Whatever be the effort so far is not good enough. It's not good enough. Like I said, we need to see the numbers. Let the numbers speak, not what is being televised. We need the numbers speak. In your 2023, in Nigeria's 2023 Appropriation Act, we have an estimated oil production around 1.8 million barrels per day. Let the numbers speak. If it's 1.8, ramp up production to hit that 1.8. We have the capacity to do it. Why don't we kill these very individuals or kill these very activities of individuals that are involved in oil theft? Like I said, those developments, those engagements are fantastic. They are good, but let the numbers speak. Let it reflect in the numbers. Let's start seeing our production ramp up to 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, even to 2 million barrels per day. This is the only sustainable measure. There is no other sustainable measure to defend Naira, to make Naira breathe again, except to ramp up production. Kill these activities around the oil theft.
At least in the short term, isn't it?
Of course, that's the point. We are talking about the short-term solution. Like I said, there are long and medium-term solutions, but the shortest time is to make sure that you guarantee the flow of forest, and you can only guarantee the flow of forest except to make sure that NNPC starts being optimal in production or producing of crude and remitting the sales proceeds. Now you've taken away oil subsidy, you are making savings. We need to see a ramp-up production in the production of our crude oil. So it's a short-term solution. That is only where you can see a sustainable stability in our forest market. Whatever they are doing, borrowing money they are all cosmetics, they are temporary, they cannot last for long.
All right, well, thank you so much, Steve Nwachukwu, economist and financial expert, for joining us on Daybreak and also giving us these perspectives on the issue of the exchange rate. We look forward to having you again on the program.
Okay.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right.